this is my run review of the Asics Metaspeed Sky Paris. Within this review, I aim to give you a lowdown of the shoe itself, some of the things I liked about the shoe, some of the things I didn't like about the shoe, who I think the shoe would be good for, and also some pairing options with this shoe, and finally some of its competitors. But before I go into the full review, disclosure, I bought this shoe with my own money. Nobody's had a chance to change my opinions on this shoe. These are what you'll hear are completely my unbiased opinions about this shoe. So you can rest assured that that nobody's had a chance to alter or change this video at all. Okay, let's go into a little bit of the lowdown of the shoe. This is an incredibly light shoe. In fact, it's the lightest shoe that I own by far. I've just weighed it on this scale and it comes in at 191 grams in my UK size 9, which, to give you some perspective, the Cielo, which is another of the shoes that I really love, that's up at 260 in my UK size 9. So there's a huge difference here between this and the Cielo straight away. You've got other shoes like the Saucony Endorphin Elite, which are kind of like 215 to 220 in my size. So this is still quite a bit lighter than that. So what you've got here is a very light shoe, but because it's light, you don't lose necessarily in the amount of foam you get either. I mean, you get 39 millimeters in the heel, 35 in the forefoot, giving you a 4 millimeter drop. It's quite a low drop actually, and it feels like that. It feels quite a flattish shoe. It doesn't feel hugely rockered like the Saucony Endorphin Elite, for instance, or the Cielo. They feel around the 8 millimeter mark. This doesn't. This is a bit more like the Diodora Carbon. This shoe. These are quite comparable actually, in the sense that this is quite a bit heavier, about 220, 230, but the geometry is very similar. This is a bit wider. This is a bit more nimble, I think. But what I'm basically saying is you do get quite a bit of foam underneath your foot and under the forefoot as well. If you're a forefoot striker, you're well padded and cushioned here. So even though the weight is low, don't let that put you off in terms of cushion. You get a decent amount of cushion in this shoe. So the upper, well, it's a mesh upper, very lightweight. As you can see, the forefoot is wide around this middle area and then tapers. It's not the widest, but it's not ridiculously narrow either. I've got quite a wide foot and my foot goes into this quite nicely and snug, and this is quite stretchy material, so it wraps around your foot but allows it to move as well, which is quite nice. And you can see here that the foam comes out around here to give you a kind of wider base to land on. This is in particular with the Sky, and we're going to talk a little bit about the differences between the Sky and Edge in a bit. But so what I'm basically saying is you get a decent landing area if you're a forefoot striker, and you get a decent volume in the toe box. In terms of the heel, you've got some padding in the heel and around the heel collar. Not overly so, but a nice level of padding, I think, just about right for a racing shoe. You've got a heel counter, not the most rigid, but it is kind of rigid. I had no problems whatsoever with this, no Achilles rub or anything. It's actually very nice. Lockdown was really good. Tongue is kind of felt tongue. It's very thin, but you've got these kind of nice ridge, can you see that? Ridged laces that you get in the Alpha Fly, that when you cinch them, they stay very tight. So I had no problems whatsoever with this upper full stop. I think it's a great upper, very lightweight, but does the job. You don't notice it, and for me that's a really good sign of an upper. Okay, outsole. You can see this is your typical racing outsole, not the most rubber coverage, and you've got quite a bit of exposed foam here. So what I will say is I ran in the wet today, and this gripped really well. I had no issues with this whatsoever. Unlike the other Asics shoe, the Super Blast, where I get lots of issues in the wet. This is really good and grippy in the wet. I think this is actually better than my Endorphin Elites in the wet, actually. So it surprised me today. I thought it might be a little bit slippy, but it wasn't. It was good. It's the first time I've run in the wet with it, and I actually thought it handled it very well, going down hills as well as up hills. I got no slippage. So that's a good thing for the upper, the outsole. It will wear away here, you have to expect that, and it's a racer, so you should really keep these for racing. But I don't think this is the least durable shoe I've seen. I think, for instance, if you compare this to the Vaporfly, I think this is going to outlast the Vaporfly. It's just not going to last, 400 miles, I would have thought. You just stick to racing in this shoe and you'll get good use out of it. That's what I plan to do anyway. And then the midsole, great foam, this FFTurbo Plus, really magical foam. I much prefer this actually to the FFTurbo that's in the Super Blast. It's a lot more springy and bouncy. And you've got a good, like I said, you've got 39, 35. So you've got a low drop, but you've got a lot of cushion under your forefoot, which I like actually. So for me, this is good geometry. You get really nice toe spring off this shoe. Probably the best toe spring I've got out of any shoe. I mean, it was good. I got good toe spring off the Diodora Carbon, but this is another level. I think it's because the plate, turn it around a minute, the plate is quite high in this shoe. And so you land on a forefoot and you compress the foam, and then the plate springs you forward off your toes. It's a really nice tippy tappy sensation, and because the shoe's light, it kind of makes you want to quicken your cadence, and I really enjoyed running in this shoe. I think it's a remarkable shoe in many ways, this one, because it's so simple yet so light, but yet so nimble, yet so quick and responsive. It's a real winner. I think for 5Ks, 10Ks, this could be my go-to shoe. For anything slightly longer, I'm on the fence between this and the Endorphin Elite. And then for the full marathon, I'm edging towards the Endorphin Elite just because of the rocker and how it will keep rocking me forward as I get into that cruise mode. I think I'd have to put slightly more effort into this shoe. But that said, this I would have no qualms if you said to me tomorrow I had to wear this for a marathon, and I'd actually look forward to it, and I will wear it for a marathon at some point. Just going, while we were talking about the plate, I think, as you can see, this plate curves up this way. I think with the the Metaspeed Paris Edge, the plate is a lot lower. You've got a lot more foam between your foot and the plate. So I've heard that it has a more kind of harsher feel, a more denser feel when you land on your forefoot. And that might be more similar maybe to the Endorphin Elite. But I think the other key difference between this shoe and that shoe is there's less volume and less width in the forefoot on the edge than there is in the Paris. But there's more, I think, width on the heel in the edge than the Sky Paris. So I guess what that's basically saying to me is the Sky Paris is predominantly for forefoot strikers who are going to hit the ground with quite hard and get that toe spring, that propulsion from the plate. Whereas the Paris Edge, I think, is going to suit heel strikers a little bit more. Ones that kind of like have quicker cadence and quicker step through their stride. And I think that's where Asics have pitched the two. But the key difference is the plate placement and obviously the width's difference. So let's just quickly go through that again. Sky Paris, wider forefoot to land on, higher plate, more springy and more propulsive. You would hit the ground with force with this shoe and you get that nice spring forward. And you've got less of a heel. So if you're a heel striker, you might not like the Sky Paris as much. And then you've got the edge, which looks almost identical, but it's got a lower placement of the plate. It's got a wider heel for heel strikers, but a narrower forefoot. So if you're a heel striker and you've got high cadence, then you might go with the Edge. If you're more of a bounder and you're a forefoot striker, you might go with the Sky Paris. But if you're somewhere in between, you've got a choice to make, and I suggest you get down the running shop and pick the two of them. So hopefully I haven't completely confused you there, but that's my very quick and first thoughts on the differences between the two. Okay, so how did it feel to run in this shoe? It feels very lightweight, very nimble. I did some interval sessions with this shoe. Was amazing at just keeps you flowing, nice spring off the toes, like I said. I did slower run and this was fine. You get a nice little tippy tappy bounce. You feel so light with this shoe on. So all in all, on the run, I felt this is a superb shoe to do for slower runs, but it comes to life when I was doing intervals. Have a look at the run footage at the end of this video and you'll see what I mean. So that was on the run. In terms of what I like about this shoe then, it's lightweight. The upper I really like, I hardly notice it. The foam I think is top notch. One of the best foam that you can get. Honestly, it's comparable to any of the top super Piba foams out there. This is, one of the best, if not the best. The grip was pretty good. This isn't the strong point of the shoe, but actually it did its job. So they're my likes. Dislikes, I think maybe the durability, I think it may be less durable than some other shoes, just purely because of the lack of coverage here, and they've done that to reduce the weight. To be honest, the weight is a major plus, but you can't have everything. If you reduce the weight in a shoe, you're going to have some downsides, which is unfortunately lack of coverage of the rubber and on the outsole, for example. But I don't think it would be terrible in terms of durability. I think this would outlast the Vaporfly, for instance. I don't think it's at that level. I think it's just something I would preserve for racing. So yeah, so I guess cons is that, and maybe I'm getting used to the colour. It's quite bright. I wish there'd been more colourways when they launched this shoe. It's not a massive negative, to be honest, but it does get a few looks, and I don't know, it's not my absolute favourite, but I don't mind it actually. And the only other dislike, I think, is it's very narrow across the heel and the midfoot. So as I'm wary of taking this to marathon length because of that, because as I go, become more fatigued during the marathon, my foot strike is going to go from here, back to potentially as far back as here. And I'm going to maybe hitting these narrower areas. And that might lead to some stability issues for me. So I would say if I'm landing on the forefoot, this is quite a stable shoe. But as I drift backwards, it becomes less stable. And a marathon will expose that, I think, for me. So that's why I'm maybe edging towards the Saucony Endorphin Elites for the marathon. But still, there's still a question mark there. Okay, pairing options for this shoe. I think it's obvious choice here. What I would pair this with. Its big brother, the Super Blast. I think these two would work amazingly well. You could throw everything mileage at the Super Blast. You could do your slow runs, you could do your tempo runs, you could do your long runs, and you could save this for races. You basically got two shoes that you could do your entire marathon training in and racing in, and keep it in the same Asics family. So that would be a good suggestion. You could replace this with the Neo Vista, which is slightly better at short, at slower runs. Or you could have a third option. You could have a slower shoe and use this for just tempo work. And you could pick quite a number of shoes. You could have the Skyward X, for instance. You could also have the Neo Vista as a slow run shoe. There's a number of things, but I think these two on its own would be enough for a good rotation. And so Asics, what an amazing job you've done on these two shoes. And we've got a second version of this, which is apparently even better. So that's my brief pairing options that I would consider. In terms of competition, I've already mentioned one. Well, I mentioned two. You've got something very similar in the Diodora Gara Carbon, but it's got a wider base. See if you can see. So wider forefoot and definitely wider midfoot and heel. A bit more stable, but not as light. I slightly prefer this, if I'm being honest, but I would maybe consider this more for the marathon distance, just because of that extra stability. I like the look of this as well. I think it's a really cool looking shoe. Diodora, I'm of that age where I grew up wearing Diodora and Kappa and all that kind of Ticini and all those kind of brands that were in those days, and so it gives me nostalgia knowing that this make is still around and they've produced a really good running shoe. And if you haven't tried this shoe, you should try it. It's because this is top notch. It's got a carbon plate designed by Ducati. That's how I hear anyway. So they put a lot of effort into this shoe, and it is basically a more stable version of this, but not quite as propulsive and not quite as, obviously, a bit heavier. And then the other option, and it's the one I'm considering for my marathon, is this. And it's quite a different shoe. This is Endorphin Elite. You can see straight away it's got much more pronounced rocker at the front. This is a bit firmer. This is a bit springier. This gives you that nice cruise through as you land on the rocket. I'm a forefoot striker. I roll forward in this. It's more of a toe spring off. So for me, in a marathon, I'm probably going to be looking to cruise quite a long way and just get that kind of momentum, that cruise and cadence going. And I think this will suit me more than this, which I feel like is a bit more of a bounder's shoe for someone who wants to really hammer it and go fast and be really aggressive in. This is an aggressive shoe as well, but in a different way. It allows you to cruise but go fast at a fast cruising pace. So I think they're the key difference. So it's slightly edged this one because I think in a marathon I want the wider platform, which you can see, I think you can see anyway, it's a lot wider than the other one, than the Sky Paris. Okay, so that's pretty much my review. Please, if you like the video, give me the thumbs up. If you like my content, please subscribe. Stay and watch the run footage. I know it's gone on a bit longer than I had planned, but I've done a slow run in this Sky Paris, and I've done an interval session in it. So if you like watching people actually run, I know some people find that really boring, but if you like it, then watch it. And I have some thoughts on the run. But that's enough me rambling for now. Hope you found that interesting and it hasn't put you to sleep. But take care and all the best, and see you soon. Bye-bye. Hello, Ed from Runnable on this beautiful, lovely morning in North London, Tuesday before my marathon. I'm going to do a quick jog today, maybe 5k, and then later on I'm going to do some intervals, and hopefully the weather is a bit better for that. But I haven't got long now before the marathon, so nothing too taxing. Even the intervals, I'm going to make sure they're not good. I don't push myself too hard. I'm testing out a pair of shoes that I've wanted to test out for ages, actually. I have raced in them one part run before, so it's not a complete new test, but I wanted to test them out kind of a slower pace, and I get the luxury today of testing them out in the wet, and then later on I'll get the chance to test them out at really quicker paces. So should be a good test overall today. And they are, let me show you, bear with me a minute. Asics Sky Paris, sorry about that. Asics Metaspeed Sky Paris, not the Edge, the Paris. The Paris are a little bit more suited to my foot strike, which are forefoot striking, but we can talk about that in the review later. But yeah, so it should be good. We'll get to try them out at slower paces in the wet, and then later on Hopefully we'll get to try them out at interval pace, you know, something around the, I don't know, 350 km pace, that kind of thing. Nothing too mental, but quick enough. All right, everyone, cheers for listening. See you later. Bye bye. Okay, so I'm in my local park again, and I'm running with the Asics Metaspeed Sky Paris, and almost immediately, I'm not going fast at all, but they kind of they don't propel you forward like, say, the Saucony Endorphin Elite, because that's got such a pronounced rocket. But there's such a nice spring and toe off on this shoe. It kind of encourages good form. It's such a natural feeling shoe as well. Asics, I think in general, they produce these kind of shoes that are very light, airy, nimble, and very responsive foam. And this foam actually is a lot nicer than the foam you get on the Super Blast. It's supposed to be the same foam as the Super Blast 2, but then I hear Super Blast 2 is not much difference to Super Blast 1, so I don't know if it's a different kind of compound they're using. It's a FFTurbo Plus, whether it's different in the Super Blast 2 and this Metaspeed Sky Paris. But I think the springiness is not just about the foam here. I think the plate is set quite high up in the shoe, and so under the forefoot I can feel a really nice spring that just keeps you ploughing on. It's so nice to run in, and at the moment in sweat I'm not feeling any slippage, whereas in the Super Blast I'd be sliding all over the shop at the moment. We'll be going down a hill in a minute, so I'll get a better idea. But yeah, so far a really enjoyable ride. I think as I said in the intro, this is not my first run in this shoe. My first run was actually a race, a park run, which you're not meant to do. Can you call park runs a race? A run then, and quick run. And they say don't wear new shoes, you know, on a run or race like that. But actually it's only 5k and they felt pretty good, and I managed to get a PB at the time, which was, I think, let me think, yeah, it was around 17:18, and considering my PB is only a bit quicker than that, 17:13, setting the original Primex strung on the same course, I think it was, and this is the first time I used that shoe, I think it was a good experience actually, very propulsive, but not because it's got an extreme rocker or anything like that. It's quite a natural shoe. You just get a really nice toe spring. I think probably better than any shoe I've ever worn, the toe spring. And I noticed in the slight uphill that I ran in just now, before I hit the downhill, it's kind of effortless running uphill, very nice. So I think these are potentially a really good shoe if you've got a road race that includes some up hills, because they're so light but yet protective. There's quite a lot of foam underneath the forefoot, because I think the drop is around 6mm. So normally that kind of drop actually suits me quite well, being a forefoot striker, because it tends to mean these race shoes that I've got a heel of 40mm, but this is a bit muddy, I didn't really want to get these dirty, but the the forefoot is actually really padded with foam. So I guess these are going to be around 40, so it means 34 in the forefoot, which is really nice for someone like me, particularly over a marathon distance who wants protection. So I've got Berlin literally in how many days now? 4 days. So it's probably too late for me to decide to pick these from Berlin. Well, it's never too late, let's be honest. But I think I'll probably go with the Endorphin Elites. I ran a 20 miler in those, and although it was tough, and there's a lot, but it was a lot of grass sections and mud and slippy areas. It performed well, you know, and it kept me flowing. So I think that's the safer call, even though this is a really lovely ride, and you know, I could see myself in London next year sticking these on where there's no pressure for me to get a fast time, and just enjoying myself with these and see where I get to. The only thing I would say about these shoes is the base is narrow, so it means as your form starts to falter, you know, you haven't got much of a base to land on. If you start going further back like I will, the heel's not the best on this, so heel strikers, I'm not convinced this is the right shoe for you to take marathon distance. But the edge apparently is slightly better for the heel, on the heel, so maybe that's a better choice. You'd have to do some research. I haven't got the edge, although I might get it in at some point and do a comparison. But I think the main difference between the Sky and the Edge Paris is the plate position and the width of the forefoot and heel. So with the Sky, you've got a higher up plate, and that's why when I land on the forefoot, I'm getting a nice spring, because even though I'm not a heavy runner, the plate's high enough for me to engage it. And the Sky's got a wider forefoot print, so encourage you to forefoot strike, whereas I believe the Edge has got a lower plate. Well, I know it's got a low plate, so it might be better for heavier runners, and also a wider heel, so it seems to be, could be better, that one, for heel strikers. Although Asics themselves, they don't differentiate that way. They differentiate between whether you're a cadence runner or like a strider, so somebody who puts power through your strides. So if you're a strider runner, you're meant to be like the Sky Paris more, and if you're a cadence runner, you're meant to like the Edge more, I believe. But actually, from listening to a lot of the reviews, that doesn't always work out to be the case, and I think some of it is to do with how you foot strike, and other is to do with how you transition from your foot strike. So those that land on their heel but transition quickly onto the forefoot, I think would really like this shoe. But those who land a bit heavier on the heel, I think maybe the Paris is a better bet. It's just a bit more stable on the heel. But anyway, going back to this shoe and how it's performing, I'm not going that fast. I reckon, let me just check my watch while I record. Okay, yeah, I'm going 5:30 km pace, which is very slow for me. But this is really nice at this pace, so you can use this at slower paces. I don't feel any issue here. And it's a really nice ride. It's comforting my foot. The upper is really nice. You don't really notice it at all, which is great. Get good lockdown. Laces are great in this, you can cinch them quite tight. No issues around my heel with rubbing. All in all, the foam is really responsive. plate is getting engaged. For lighter runners, I think it's a good shoe. It's a light shoe anyway, so it would help going up hills and that kind of thing. So I think in general this is a real winner of a shoe, and it's given me some thoughts yet again about which shoe to use for the marathon. Why don't you, if you're listening to this, why don't you put your thoughts in the comments what I should go for, this Sky Paris or the Endorphin Elite, because this has given me food for thought for sure. But anyway, with that, this is not an intensive review yet because we haven't done the intervals, but overall at a slower pace this is great. I'm surprised actually. I thought it would be really pushing me to run quicker and be a bit firmer than this, but it's not. It's nice and springy. I don't feel it being firm at all at the moment, which is great. Anyway, that's enough of me. I'll see you later. Bye bye. Right, so I am going to do some interval training in the Sky Paris, Asics Metaspeed Sky Paris. I'm going to do roughly 5 times 500 meters. It's not too much of a session for me just because I'm wary about the marathon. But anyway, with no further ado, we're going to start. I'm going to try and film this. May go all over the place, so just be wary. Anyway, see you later. Bye bye. Or not see you later. Watch a video. The great things about these Sky Paris shoes, they're so light. They just glide you across the surface. They're really good for going uphill as well. Going uphill in these is like a dream come true. By far and away the best shoe I've got for climbing, by a mile. And I'm getting chased. You're on camera. I just got chased by a man and a kid on a pogo, not a pogo stick, scooter. Anyway, let's keep going. There's Barnet and District over there. They're another running club near me. I was going to say rivals. They're not rivals. They're a good set of runners actually, but they're not in the same division as my group. But I know a few of them and they're good guys and girls. Okay. So immediately I can feel the spring in these. I'm going up a bit of a hill now and they're awesome for that. I think the only reason that I may not use these, or probably won't use these for Berlin, well, it's a couple of reasons. One is I just find the Endorphin Elite, the rocker, pronounced rocker, just keeps me going and going and going. And I think over a marathon that's going to pay dividends. And then secondly, I'm not sure about these over the marathon distance on my calves. I think they've got a lower drop, which can mean that they can hurt. It can mean it can hurt your calves a little bit. So I often do interval training around this local park of mine. It's got quite a nice flattish section and a loop that you can do. It's about 500 metres. It's got a bigger loop that's about 800 metres, but I'm going to do 500 metres today. And it's kind of a nice way of running interval around here rather than doing it on the track, which I actually don't particularly like, to be honest. I've got a theory which is probably all wrong, but my theory is that you're unlikely to run a road race on a track, right?
and I do mainly road races. So what's the point of training on something that I'm not going to run on? Certainly. I know other people would say that's not the point. The point is to run fast, and to run on a track allows you to do that. But I'd rather run on a surface that's similar to what I'm going to be racing on in marathons and half marathons and 5Ks, and the majority of the time that's not going to be a track, very rarely anyway. But then those who like tracks, running on tracks, got nothing against it at all. I prefer to run on surfaces more that I'm more likely to be running on race day, that's all. Plus I get to run around one of my favourite parks, which is another bonus. So in between my intervals, I always have a little 1 minute break. I try and do some dynamic stretching between that. I think if you're doing intervals, it's the one time when I think you're more likely to get injured. A bit like when you're doing your short racing like the 5K. And so you just have to be careful. Any slight twinge, you need to stop running. I've got quite good at kind of detecting when I don't feel right, and when I'm pushing it too hard. Even though you're running hard, you can still concentrate on your form. Always be wary of your foot strike. I tend to be up on my toes a lot when I'm running fast, which is good. Nice, good form. But I just have to be careful, because I'm going fast. But I don't hit a divot or a bump the wrong way and turn an ankle, which would be disastrous for me at this late stage. But so far so good. The Asics Metaspeed Sky Paris is such a great interval shoe. They're so light and nimble. Great on the tarmac, great on the track. And you just feel like you're going to run fast in this shoe, to be honest. You can't help but feel that way. And I feel just, as soon as I put them on, I feel ready to race. Probably, along with the Endorphin Elite, fastest shoe that I own. And when I say fastest shoe, it makes me run fast. Obviously me doing the work, but the toe spring is really good in the shoe. And again, because of how light and how nimble it is, it feels great at the short distances. The only thing I would say is I'm just really not sure about it over a marathon distance. Not got a wide base at all. The stability reasons might be quite tricky, although I think I will try it one day. For the time being, I think I'll stick with the Endorphin Elite. It's a known quantity, as I ran a 20 mile in them recently and they did fine. So it kind of makes sense to stick with them. But if you're thinking of a marathon shoe or half marathon shoe, I think these are a good bet, you know. Just make sure you get used to them, running them a lot. Make sure you can handle them when you're really tired. That's my only doubt. When I'm tired, how will they feel? Apart from that, okay, so my last, they're awesome. 500 meters. I've messed up a bit. I forgot to record the last one because I was chatting to you guys. Anyway, it's fine. These things happen. It's not. I'm not one of these guys that thinks if it isn't on Strava, it didn't happen. Because I'm recording it, so I know it's bloody happening. And I can feel how hard it is. And running with a camera is not that easy either. Hopefully this isn't too jerky for you lot when you watch it back. But I'm trying my best not to shake my arm around like I normally do. Anyway, I think interval training is an interesting one as a concept because I've hardly done any during this marathon block. I've only done it when I haven't been able to do a park run, like this weekend when I was hoping to do one up in Liverpool and couldn't. So I missed out on doing some speed work, which I think is important. But I kind of promised myself I wouldn't do anything too taxing tonight. So this is it. I think I've done about 2.5k, 5 sets of those 500 meters, but I've only managed to record 3 or so, both on camera and on Strava. Epic fail. But anyway, the main thing is the run on the right, slight tight glute on my left hand side, but I've had that for a while, to be honest. I don't suppose I'll be getting rid of that anytime soon, not before the marathon. Anyway, that's it. Negotiated my last speed session before the Berlin Marathon. Happy about that. And now I'm gonna have a well-earned bath and stretch out and recover. And that really is my last workout now. Nothing else but slow running for me between now and Sunday. And when I mean slow running, I mean slow running in the shoes that I like to run in. Anyway, I hope that's been useful for you. I'll put it on YouTube, and you can get an idea of how I do intervals and you know what I thought of the shoe. Anyway, see you later. Bye bye.